Let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining us for today's webinar, the Kauai DBED Info Session. My name is Nicole and I'm a project engineer at HTDC Innovate Hawaii. Innovate Hawaii is part of the Hawaii Technology Development Corporation, HTDC, which is a state agency attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, whose mission is to grow the tech economy and workforce in Hawaii. Innovate Hawaii is the state's NIST Manufacturing Extension Partnership Center, which supports small and medium-sized manufacturers to enhance their productivity, growth, and technical performance through programs and services across the islands. Some housekeeping items before we dive into our webinar today. So this session will be recorded and will be sent to everyone who registered. And we are in webinar mode, so your cameras and microphones should already be muted. And feel free to send in your questions during the session through the Q&A function. And first off, I would like to introduce Mark Perriello, President and CEO of the Kauaʻi Chamber of Commerce, to make some brief welcome remarks.
Hey, thank you, Nicole. So I will be brief. I want to thank HTDC and DBED for hosting this important discussion today, and thank all of the participants for joining us. The community-based economic development program is a really great opportunity for businesses here on Kauai, and so I'm excited that folks have decided to tune in and listen, as well as learning about enterprise zones. These are ways that you can help grow your business, help save money for your business, and so just excited to hear from the experts today about these two really important programs and how they can impact your businesses. So again, thank you, Nicole. I'm really excited to be partnering with you on this. And I want to thank Robbie Melton as well, real quick, with the Small Business Development Corporation partnering with us as well.
Great. Thank you, Mark. So now I'd like to welcome Robbie Melton from the Kauai Small Business Development Center to make her welcome remarks.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. It's a pleasure to be here. And we are so grateful for DBED and all the programs that it has to support our businesses here on Kauai. The SBDC has a great partnership with DBED and HTDC and Innovate Hawaii, as well as the Chamber. And I think these two programs, you will learn some ways to really help your business. So I really appreciate all of you joining the webinar today. So back to you, Nicole.
Thanks, Robbie. So now without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Mark Ritchie for our main DBED presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Nicole, and thank you, Mark, and thank you, Robbie. It's a pleasure to be here virtually. I hope at some point in the new year, we're able to get back over to Kauai and do our sessions in person, but we'll make do with this the Zoom technology for now. I'm going to share my screen, and let's see, we'll start if that works. So my name's Mark Ritchie, and I work in the Business Development and Support Division at DBED in Honolulu. And our main function really is to try to help businesses be successful. And we have a number of different programs for that, including our CBED loan program, our community-based economic development loan program, and then also our enterprise zone program. We have a couple of other programs that involve export development and things along those lines. But one thing all of our programs have in common is we're trying to help our companies grow and be successful. So I thought I would start out with our CBED loan program and talk a little bit about that. Let me do the slideshow here. There we go. There we go. So DBED's community-based economic development program was established by the legislature back in the early 1990s. And to define what community-based economic development means, it's really economic development from the ground up, trying to find opportunities and grow businesses from communities in Hawaii. And those can be different demographic communities, ethnic communities, communities of interest, but that businesses that are going to serve those needs of a particular community. By statute, the CBED program can offer grants, and we do loans, and we also offer technical assistance. What I'm going to talk about now is specifically our loan program. And one reason I'm talking about that is because we just recently received an Economic Development Administration grant of $1 million to put into the revolving loan fund. And with the state match, we have about $1.25 million now of funds to deploy. So our loans can support a broad range of businesses, but we have particular focus on and are looking at sort of agricultural value-added, agricultural processing, foods and things, and manufacturing and wholesaling. And that's why we work very closely with Innovate Hawaii, which is the manufacturing extension partnership for Hawaii, because we really want to try to help our manufacturers. The loans we offer usually range from $50,000 to $100,000, and our interest rates can range from 3 to 6%, and we can go up to a 10-year term. Right now, our interest rates are at 3%. Lastly, as structurally part of this program, we do a lot of co-lending with other organizations. We have memorandums of understanding and already have a number of loans with different organizations, including the State Department of Agriculture, the Hawaii Community Reinvestment Corporation. We have an MOU with the Hunger Foundation, and we're also looking at other partnerships. Usually we'll sort of do 50-50 on some of these loans, and they will help us in the underwriting and also the loan servicing. So if you're a Hawaii company, what type of companies are we looking at for this particular program? It must be said, there's a lot of different loan products out there right now, and that's something people like Robbie Melton can help you with, kind of sift through those. There's SBA guaranteed loans, there's different loans from USDA, and then there's also private sector kind of association loans, like the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement has a robust loan program. So where do all these loan programs go and how do they fit together? We're looking at specifically certain things, but for the requirements for a CBED loan, you must be a registered business in the state of Hawaii. And then loans, and this is the most important thing, should result in an economic development outcome. We're really looking for new jobs, services, increase in business for local suppliers or product inputs to a product. We do not compete against the private sector. So you must have at least one commercial financial institution turned down, like go to your bank and they say, no, we can't do this loan, for various reasons. And then lastly, and this is also very important, we're really, again, looking at expanding businesses and also one of these CBED focused areas, kind of the value-added agriculture, manufacturing, and wholesaling. Now, what can a CBED loan be used for? It can be used for working capital, construction or improvement of facilities, purchase of equipment. That tends to be a main one, purchase of equipment and working capital, and then payment of production and marketing expenses. Unlike maybe some other loan products, we can't do like a refinancing with the loan. In other words, use our loan to pay off another loan to get a lower interest rate or something. There's all sorts of things that we can't do per statute with this loan program. Oops. So if you're interested in this program, you think you might qualify, in the sort of discussions with people like Robbie Melton, and also I think Diana Singh is on this webinar as well, sort of our county of Kauai based person that helps us also with our enterprise zone program, in discussions with them, see if this might be appropriate. And then what we have is a loan interest form. And this is not a pre-qualification form at all, but it's just tell us a little bit about yourself, what are your needs? And then when we receive it, we'll take a look at it and see, is this appropriate for CBED? And if not for CBED, we try to give you some other places to go where you might have a loan that might be most appropriate for you. So on this loan interest form, the type of information we want about your company, it's just, the date you're established, the type of business you are, manufacturer, wholesaler, agriculture. We can do retail businesses, but we tend not to. We tend to try to focus more on manufacturers and wholesalers. We're just sort of looking at your annual revenue, number of employees. And this is like really important. Sometimes we find companies that look like, oh, perfect for our program, but then they really are not up to date on their taxes, and they don't have enough pro formas of their financials. In other words, like 2 years of their past income statements or balance sheets. We do like you to have been in business. We talked about, expanding businesses, have been in business for, a year or two. And so we really need to sort of look at your income statements and balance sheets, because what we're trying to do is just make sure that you'll be able to repay the loan. Even though our purpose is economic development, we do want you to be successful and be able to pay the loan off successfully. And oops, sorry about that. I'm going the wrong direction. And then lastly, on the form, we're just looking at how much money you were seeking, the fact that we had a commercial turn down, and then what are you using the loan for, and then what collateral you would have. We do try to look at collateral in case there is a default. And that's it for the CBED loan program. Nicole, should I go ahead and do EZ and then we'll do all the questions at once? Would that be the best way to do it?
You only have 2 questions, and one of them is just, will the slides be made available?
Yes, I will make them available. I'll send them to Nicole and Robbie and maybe Diana on the call.
Okay, great.
And feel free to test them out.
We just have one more question. They're asking, please qualify private enterprise bank, quote, can't do this loan at same interest rate.
We're not really competing on interest rates. So if the commercial bank says, yes, we will do this, here's our interest rate, that does not qualify as a turn down just because we have a lower interest rate. We're looking for that bank, but a turn down could be, we can't do as much money as you want. You need 50,000, we'll only do 25. We could consider that a turn down if we give you the 50.
Great, thanks, Mark. I think you can move on now.
Okay. Now I'm going to go to our other program here, and that's the Enterprise Zone program, which has been around for a while, and it's a state county partnership. Oops, let me get, screen's getting a little crowded here. Wait a minute. Oops, hold on here. Stop share. All right, let me try this again. Okay. So the purpose of the Enterprise Zone program, which has been around since the early 1990s, is essentially job creation and retention, and to stimulate certain kinds of business or economic activity in economically challenged areas of the state. And when we say economically challenged areas, it's done by census tract, and I can go into that in a little bit. Only certain types of businesses are eligible. The one big one that is not eligible is retail. So if most of your revenue is from retail sales, where you're paying retail GET, you are probably not appropriate for this program. But if you are charging wholesale, then you are eligible for this program. And particularly we look at kind of agricultural production, manufacturing, and by definition, wholesaling, and sort of wholesaling and distribution. Those are the 3 big categories, and most of the companies that we have in the program are in those categories. But then there's sort of a grab bag of different kind of technology related categories that we have up there as well, that we have some companies in and now and then, but most of them, or the bulk of them, are either manufacturers, wholesalers, or in the agricultural industry. Here's a copy of the map where the zones are. So for Kauaʻi, there are 4 enterprise zones, and that's the North Shore Kauai, Kapa'a, South Central Kauai, and then West Kauai. As you see, most of the places where there are people or any sort of urban development and even agricultural development, it's an enterprise zone. So if you have any doubt, like where our street is, whether you're in an enterprise zone, if you go to our website at the end of this presentation, there's GIS maps that allow you to zoom in down to street level and see if something is in an enterprise zone. And so you can like actually look at the enterprise zones on Kauai and zoom in on that. Oops, I seem to be stuck. Let me. Oops, I seem to be having technical problems here. There we go. Anyway, in addition to the benefits, which I'll get into in just a minute, that the state offers, actually, I'll start with the state. So what are the tax benefits on this? If you join the program, it lasts for 7 years, and manufacturers and ag companies can do a 3-year extension. And in exchange for job creation each year, you file with us each year, and you basically let us know, how many, if you met your target number of jobs. And if you do, you get a certification letter, and that means you can take these tax benefits on when you do your state taxes. This is strictly a state program. There's no federal involvement in this. So of the 4 benefits of the program, 2 of them are right here, and that's a state income tax credit. And what that means is it's only money you owe the state, and you can't carry it forward. But let's say in the first year of the program, you owe the state $1,000. You're going to get $800 of that right back in the tax credit. And then that declines by 10% each year through year 7. You also, the unemployment insurance that you pay the state, you're going to get 80% of that back. So if you pay, making this up, $1,000, you're going to get 800 of that back. And again, that will decline by 70% each year. There's also 2 other benefits. One is a general excise tax exemption. You basically do not have to pay GET. And the way the statute's worded is a little bit confusing, but we usually recommend that companies, they pay the GET throughout the year, then they file with us, and if they're certified, then when they do their GET reconciliation, they'll show that they can show that they've been certified for the enterprise zone program in that particular year, and then they could get all their GET monies that they paid in back, refunded. The 4th benefit of this program is if a company is going to be doing refurbishing their facilities, putting up a warehouse, anything like that, and it's in the enterprise zone, that if they use a Hawaii licensed contractor, that contractor does not have to charge you, the company, the GET. So let's say you're going to spend $1 million on building part of your manufacturing facility or refurbishing or building a warehouse. You're going to spend $1 million. You could have like almost $50,000 savings on that GET. So those are the 4 programs that the state offers. And then also, because it's a state-county partnership, each county offers some benefit, and they have to offer some benefit because that's part of the enterprise zone program. And so for Kauai, you actually get priority business permit processing. In other words, if you're an enterprise zone company, you put in for a permit of some sort, it should get to the top of the pile pretty quickly. So in order to meet the requirements of this program each year, again, you file with us each year, you have to create jobs. Now, it's very easy if you're a new business. In other words, if you started your business after that enterprise zone was already drawn and declared, you just have to go up 10% in your hiring. And so that if you had 10 employees, you have to show us that the first year you have 11. And each year when you file with us, you have to have 11. And as long as you hold that number, you qualify for the benefits of the program. Now, some would say, well, if I only have 3 people, then do I just have to hire, somebody for a month or two? It's no, we actually round up. So it has to be a whole FTE. And so there's no benefit to, if you have 5 people, you only have to have half a person. If you have 5, you have to go up to 6. Very few companies fall into this category, but if you are really an older company and you actually existed there in that spot, that address, before the enterprise zone was drawn, they make it a little bit more difficult for you to meet the hiring requirements. And so that would be like the first year, it's 10%, you maintain. So for the first 3 years, it's the same, but then they start making you add more employees. Very few companies fall into this, but it has happened in the past. And again, this was written by the legislature, it's in the statute. So here's our website where you can go and learn more about the program. It has the GIS maps, you can see if you're in a zone, and then an online application there's a link to it, and everything is done online with us, and we usually have about a week turnaround time for new enrollments. What we like to do is, like right now, if we receive an application, we'll sort of ask the company, do you want to start January 1st? So then you'll just be on a calendar year. If you want to start December 1st, we could probably do that, but then you're going to have to prorate your first year. And then on the back end, you're going to have to be prorating, and it just gets a little more complicated on that. Last thing that I didn't discuss in much detail is the enterprise zones are proposed by the counties using certain economic criteria data. And that has to do with sort of median family income in a census tract, unemployment rates, that sort of thing. And a lot of times they go back to the 10-year census for that data. The counties propose, and then the governor has to accept or sign off on that. And DBED makes a recommendation. And usually DBED is helping the counties, put the package together. And then the governor has to sign off on it. The zones last 20 years. We've already had a lot of zones expire, but then they've been redesignated, but they may lose some census tracts because areas have become wealthier and then are no longer eligible for it. Where that's happened the most is on Maui. When they've had some expire, they've actually lost census tracts because Maui is becoming more wealthy, which is actually, from an economic development point, not a bad thing, but sort of is what it is. So some of these enterprise zones may be expiring in the future. Kauai actually did just go a couple of years ago through and redesignate most of their enterprise zones. So those are actually good out until, I think the 2030s, like the early 2030s. Everybody is grandfathered in though. So even if you join the program and you have 7 years and the zone expires next year, you can still stay in the program, you're grandfathered in. And also just wanted to mention, DBED has a couple of other programs, and one in particular I wanted to mention is our HTDC program, which is our export development program. Don't have a slideshow for you, but we have done other webinars that are actually on our website. You can look at recordings of those, but that is to help Hawaii companies get into foreign markets beyond Hawaii. And we have number of components to the HTDC program. One is kind of educational seminars and one-on-one kind of business consulting. Another part of the program is where we take Hawaii companies overseas into Hawaii pavilions. We arrange all the booth space. It's all subsidized. And then we also have awards where we will subsidize the cost of a company's kind of export development plan. If you're going overseas for meetings, you need to buy booth space at a show where we don't have a Hawaii pavilion. And there's a lot of other costs and expenses, everything from kind of e-commerce costs to translating your websites, let's say into Japanese. There are a lot of the costs that we can pick up with that program. So definitely when you're on our website at invest.hawaii.gov, take a look at the HTDC program. last program I wanted to mention is the Made in Hawaii program, formerly called Buy Hawaii, Give Aloha. That's a portal site that DBED did, particularly at the start of the pandemic, where we list and catalog lots of Hawaii companies that make things that are at least 51% Hawaii content, and they have e-commerce sites that we link to. It's a portal site, and you can get to it from invest.hawaii.gov, and you can go there and then you can get to a company's website to actually purchase things. And we're very proud of that, and it's going through a lot of upgrades and revisions now, trying to promote Hawaii products, not only a Hawaii audience, but to a overseas audience as well, because a number of our companies actually have Japanese language websites now as well, and they're doing e-commerce in Japan. And there are special programs. HTDC is actually doing, Innovate Hawaii is doing one to help companies with e-commerce, particularly for foreign markets like Japan. With that, it was a little bit of a fire hose I threw out there, but happy to answer any questions on either the CBED loan program or the EZ program or the High Step program, the Export Development program, or the Made in Hawaii program.
Thanks, Mark. We do have one question. For the enterprise zones, if I'm a new company and need to get permits, should I apply for an EZ program knowing that I will be hiring people to help get my permits?
That's an excellent question, and I forgot to actually mention that. Excellent question. The best time to join the program is when you actually are owing the state of Hawaii money, and you think you're going to start hiring people, because there's no point in joining it if you're running in the red, because then you're not going to get you won't be able to use the tax credit, because the credit, it's called non-reimbursable, means it only comes out of the money that you owe the state, that 80% that you get back the first year. And the program is 7 years. If in any year you don't meet the hiring requirements, you still file with us, but then we just tell you you're not certified to take the tax benefits in that particular year. You're still in the program though. Next year, if you meet the hiring requirements, then you can take the tax benefits. So a good time to if you really use this program to sort of maximize your benefits, do it right when you're about to start hiring people, because then you can count them, because we usually start at your base number. So let's say it's 5, and if you know you're going to be hiring a couple more people, that's great. We'll start it at 5, and then your target would be 8. Your target would be actually 6. And then just have to hold that. So that's a good time. But also, if you actually are owing the state money on your taxes.
Great, thanks, Mark. Doesn't look like we have any additional questions.
Okay. Can I ask Diane if she wants to, is Diane sitting on there? She's our enterprise zone coordinator. I just wanted to give a shout out to Diane. Oh, she says aloha.
I think Diana, I think I just gave you permission to talk if you did want to say anything.
Because Diane is the woman to go to if you're interested in the Enterprise Zone program on Kauai, and she can kind of direct you through it. Ultimately, the application is on our website, but definitely schedule a meeting with Diane.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Diane.
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat in case anyone wants to reach out.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana. Oh, one more question. Are opportunity zones at all related, or are they federal?
Opportunity zones are a completely different thing, although they're zones, and they actually, when we got involved in this federal program, it came to our division, and it was our division that worked with the counties in choosing the opportunity zones. The opportunity zones, what it is it's basically a tax incentive or even a tax shelter whereby if you have realized capital gains, you can take those gains and you can put it into an opportunity fund, which you have to create. It's a legal entity, it can be an LLC or a corp or whatever, but only the monies that in there have to come from capital gains. And then what you do, you still have to pay actually taxes on those capital gains, but that fund then can do an investment in opportunity zones. And we actually have maps on our website on our pull down menu where you could look at the opportunity zones. The investments have to be sort of business investments. So it can be anything from, let's say, an apartment building to an empty lot where you're going to build a new store. It can be a variety of things, but it has to be sort of a business investment. So what is this thing about opportunity zones? Why are you having this investment vehicle of a fund? The incentive on this is if you keep that investment for 10 years, and let's say it appreciates a lot, then you can sell it after 10 years. You have to hold it for a minimum of 10 years. But then if you sell it, the appreciation on it, there is no capital gains. At the federal level and also at the state level, state law conforms to federal tax law regarding opportunity zones. So it's a long-term investment, and the real advantage of it is after the 10 years when you would actually sell that investment. It can be a way, not just to buy real estate, but it can also be a way to do an equity investment in a company. And so let's say you wanted to sell your company and you're in an opportunity zone. And by the way, all the opportunity zones are in enterprise zones in the state, with one exception on Oahu. But if you're a company looking for an investor and you're willing to sell the whole company or 51% or even a minority share, an opportunity fund could be used for that. There's more information on our website if you go to the pull down menu, kind of helping businesses on opportunity zones. We have sort of a whole dedicated section of our website on those. It's not a state-run program though. It's basically a tax incentive. It's like a 1030 exchange that people do in real estate. So it's all done through the tax code. You don't come to us for approvals or anything else. You do see some real estate advertisements though, now advertising industrial property or residential property, even, with apartments and buildings and things like that. Well, they'll say it is in an opportunity zone in case somebody would want to use an opportunity fund to actually purchase an investment in one of those zones.
Great, we do have another question. Are craft microbrew manufacturers considered value-added manufacturing?
Yes. Yes, I mean, they're considered manufacturers for us. That'd be, we put them in the food category. Surprisingly, we actually have a lot of alcohol companies in Hawaii. I know some people that do loans and foundations, as part of their mission, they won't do alcohol, but we actually do have a lot of alcohol, a lot of breweries and things. The only caveat on that for enterprise zones is sometimes you have retail space. The retail revenue can't count for the tax breaks. And so when you're filling out your form, it's going to make you divide the wholesale and retail. So if you're a microbrewery and all you do is sell retail, enterprise zone probably is not going to help you because you're not going to have enough wholesale sales. But if you have at least half your sales are going into grocery stores and it's wholesaling, then you could be appropriate.
Great, thank you, Mark. I think that's all the questions we have for today. So,
okay. Well, it's been my pleasure. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't bore people, but I know there's a lot of, particularly on the CBED. Oh, go ahead. Did somebody say something? Anyway, okay. But on the CBED loan program, I know there's a lot of loan programs out there, but that's something that like Robbie Melton at the Small Business Development Center, she is versed in that because SBA trains her up on every sort of thing. And so she'd be a good person to look at, to talk with about what kind of loan programs or financing programs might be available to the businesses on Kauai, given your circumstances.
So Mark, I have a question.
Sure.
For the CBED program, you said the average loan is anywhere from 50 to 100,000.
Yes.
For qualifications, for like say less than 50,000, do you require a business plan?
Yes, I mean, if they've been in business a couple of years and they show revenue and things like that, we're not really in a position to do loans for startups.
Okay,
so we're
that's
already
good to
assuming
know.
that they've been in business like 2 years and they're, already kind of know what they're doing. We can go down as low as 25,000. Sometimes we, do stuff with co-lending partners. We could go as low as 25,000. But that would kind of be special circumstances. We're trying not to compete against other loan programs as well. And there's some kind of micro loan programs out there for 10,000 or 15,000. And so we're not trying to play in that field. And we're really looking at kind of business expansions and trying to support like Nicole and some of the manufacturing and business expansions that after people have been in, business for like 2 years and they need to start really scaling up, maybe buying new manufacturing equipment and things like that.
Okay, so thinking of that expansion, what about CBED loans for people using, doing exporting?
We would love that. If somebody was scaling up to do exporting, they're making stuff here in Hawaii. The part that I think I said at the beginning of my presentation, kind of the most important part is just we're trying to see that there's some sort of economic development outcome of it. And so if it's more revenue to the company, but also they're employing more people and they're doing most of the stuff in Hawaii, give you an example, if we had somebody come to us and they wanted, $100,000 loan, but almost everything they're doing is just imported, and it's just 2 or 3 people, it'd be difficult for us to try to articulate. We have an advisory board by statute, so we have to report back and they have to do recommendations. We need to sort of justify how this is helping some economic development in a community.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then for agriculture, because that's one of the components for the CBED?
Yes.
So what kinds of things do people use from agriculture or agribusinesses do they use a loan for?
Well, the last one we had, I won't tell you, actually it was for organic mushrooms, and it's a joint one with Department of Ag. State Department of Ag, they kind of did the land part, but then we did all of the equipment that they were going to be using. And a lot of it involves sort of greenhouse shedding and then processing and stuff. And so our part of the loan was $50,000 went for the equipment part of it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Also, the state has, and Nicole can talk about this, and probably knows about it, a manufacturing assistance program. It's still by statute, but the ledge has not funded it. But it was to help pick up 20% of the costs of manufacturing capital equipment used in manufacturing. And it was a competitive process, and every year they had applications for it. And it was a way to try to get our companies to become more efficient, upgrade, but then also expand and get new equipment in. And unfortunately, the legislature for the past 2 years has not funded it. But Nicole and I and Robbie are all hoping that they do, because I think that helps our manufacturers a lot. And to combine like a 20% grant with maybe a CBED loan, you could, and if they're in an enterprise zone, I mean, we've got all sorts of things kind of working to help, these companies.
Yeah, I'm advocating for that with our legislators this year, that they need to refund the program.
Yes.
Because on Kauai, even though we're small, we have a lot of small manufacturers that could really use the funding that could then employ more people.
Right. And CBED would be happy to come in and pick up some of the costs too. Like if you got on a grant, you get 20% of it, but then combine it with maybe a CBED loan for a part of it. I mean, I know sometimes equipment manufacturers do financing, but I think our interest rate would be lower and a little bit more competitive in our terms. I mean, we can go out 10 years to help companies.
Great.
A lot of the loan products don't go out 10 years. I mean, they're taking like 3 years, you want it paid off and something. So we have a lot more flexibility to work with our companies.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing all these resources with our Kauai companies today.
Thanks, it's my pleasure. And hope to see people in person on Kauai, maybe next year. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Thanks everyone for joining us.